Tools and Twisties, Precision Tools Performance Cars. Hey, I picked up a couple of wrench sets recently, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. The one that I've really wanted to try for a while is this Wright wrench set. These are made in USA wrenches, and Wright has got a great reputation for some fairly plain looking wrenches that evidently perform really, really well. I know some of the channels that do destructive testing on them tested these Wrights, and they had some of the best non-slip grips, and they performed super well. And I think they won the wrench shootout, if you will. Yeah, they're not unreasonably priced. This 10-piece set, 10 to 19 millimeter in the satin finish, was about $155 or something like that. And you know, that is either a great deal or, you know, a terrible deal depending on your perspective. For instance, this Gearwrench set, which I also recently picked up on the Amazon Prime day sale, was $40 for a bigger set, a 6 to 19. Now, of course, these are made in China and these are made in the USA. But I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at the Wright wrenches and the Gearwrenches and some others. The other wrench set that I recently picked up was this USAG or USAG. These are made in Taiwan, but they're the same as the RBRT anti-slip wrenches, known for having really, really good anti-slip drives on them. So I thought we'd take a look at a couple of them. I also picked up not too long ago the Icon anti-slip wrenches, and these are the USAGs were delivered to the US about $155. They're about $125 and then $20 for shipping, and I think it was another $5 or $10 for this plastic case, which was kind of cool. They may be more expensive now with tariffs. I'm not sure how the tariff situation will be. But the Icon ones are nice too, and they also have an anti-slip design, and they're also about $120. So interestingly, it's not that much less expensive for the Icon set than it is for the Wright set or the USAG set. Now, with the Icon set, you do get they include smaller wrenches. It goes down to 6 and 7 millimeters, which I don't really need a fancy anti-slip 6 or 7 millimeter wrench. I have some small wrenches, and that's not a fastener that you're usually dealing with a lot of torque. I also wanted to comment that, you know, on these wrenches, just how much torque you can put on them isn't the only factor that I consider when I'm picking a wrench that, you know, I really want to use. I mean, feel in my hand is probably one of the top considerations, how they feel ergonomically. You know, how they go on a bolt is obviously important, how much slop they have. And I was playing with these before, and they're all pretty tight. There's not a lot of variation. But how they feel, you know, how they look, how they clean up, how easy they are to warranty if you do break them. But these aren't, you know, I don't break wrenches. I can't recall, except for, you know, really cheap, crappy wrenches that I abuse the heck out of, ever breaking a quality wrench. Now, I have worn some wrenches out. I had some snap-on wrenches for years and years, and I finally kind of wore one of them out. The chrome was peeling, and it was just not in the best shape, and sent it back to Craftsman, or sent it back to Snap-on. They sent me a brand new one. But honestly, if I have a bolt that I need to put, you know, 150, 200 foot-pounds on, like they're doing on some of these tests, I'm not using this tool with a 2-foot extension on it to do it. I'm going to grab, you know, a 1/2-inch socket and a big-ass ratchet, and that's not going to have a problem, you know, putting 200 foot-pounds or something on a bolt without breaking the socket, without breaking the wrench. So yeah, you can't always get something like this in that place, and you know, there may be once every few years a situation where you need to use a tiny little wrench, open-end wrench, and try to put, you know, an enormous amount of torque on a stuck bolt. But that's not really my primary consideration when I'm picking them. So let's take a look at what we got. We also have a full Matco set here, which is, I don't know how old this set is. I've had this set for a long time, and it's one of the really early anti-slip designs. It's much less aggressive than some of the new ones. But I've had these USA-made Matco wrenches for, I'm guessing, at least 15 years. And they used to be, you know, my daily wrenches, and I still use them, and I still love them. They're not, you know, they don't have as much of the anti-slip design, and they're not quite as Well, they're not quite as new as some of the other ones, so I haven't been using them as much lately. But yeah, let's take a look at a couple of them. So here's a 14 millimeter wrenches, a layout of 14 millimeter wrenches. And here's the Gearwrench, you know, 50 bucks, 40 bucks for a whole set on Amazon Prime Day. I think they went up to a whopping $50. And that's for a set that goes from 6 to 19. So, you know, it's they look decent enough, but, you know, they're made in China, and I wouldn't expect, they do have a lifetime warranty. So if you're on a budget, sure, something like this, it's going to turn a bolt. The fit on the bolts is actually quite good. So this one has no sort of anti-slip features built into it. So again, yeah, there's the Gearwrench. And next is the USAG or USAG. These are, I believe, made in Taiwan. It's got this beam design. They feel really good in the hands. I've been using these a little bit lately and really like the way they feel. They have a very, very aggressive anti-slip feature on the open end side. And they also have some anti-slip features on the box end side. And it's also a 6-point box, which is kind of interesting and unusual. I probably should have pointed that out on the Gearwrench as well. This is a 6-point instead of a 12-point box end, which is really pretty unusual. In fact, the only two wrenches I have, combination wrenches I have, are these two, the inexpensive Gearwrench, and perhaps the most expensive of the ones I have, the USAGs. Icon, you know, is clearly designed to be, well, we'll look at the snap-on here. So this is the, it's the Matco. Here's the snap-on. So here's the snap-on, and this is not one of the fancy anti-slip snap-ons. It's just the regular flank drive snap-on. But these feel great in the hand. Very, very expensive. I mean, the snap-on wrenches are just very, very expensive. And honestly, I don't see a heck of a lot of reason to buy them when there's tools like this, you know, this USAG out there, or these Wright wrenches. So there's the snap-on, and here's the icon, and the icon is clearly, you know, designed after the snap-on, but it's actually a little bit beefier than the snap-on. It's a little bit wider. It's a little bit, it's actually that, you know, some people complain the snap-ons are a little sharp in their hands, and the icon does not have that problem. Again, the icon has super aggressive anti-slip features on the open end side. And I don't know how much of it has on the box end side, but at any rate, there's the snap-on and the icon next to each other. This is a semi-ancient Mac made in the USA, open end wrench. This has no anti-slip features. This is probably, I don't know, this is probably a 30-year, 40-year-old wrench. Still in great shape. It's not part of a set. It's just singleton I have, so it doesn't get used a lot just because I usually grab a wrench out of my sets instead of a single 14-inch. But it's the Mac, and this is the Matco. So unlike the new, you know, we're talking about these USAGs are basically the same as the new Matco wrenches that are made in Taiwan. This is back when Matco made wrenches in the US, so USA made Matco. And I've loved these wrenches for years. No anti-slip features on it. Actually, that's not true. It has a tiny little anti-slip feature built into it there. But compared to what they do now, you know, with tons of ridges and grooves and everything, it's not very aggressive. And then finally the Wright. And the Wright has got a satin finish on it instead of this polished chrome. They are available in polished chrome, but this 10-piece set was not available in metric in polished chrome. I had to buy it singletons. They come in polished chrome. They come in this satin. They also come in a black finish, black industrial finish with this texture on it. And so they're not, you know, they're certainly not the most beautiful wrenches I own, but they're very utilitarian looking, and they seem extremely well designed. They feel good in their hands. They do have some, obviously some very good anti-slip features because they do really well in the testing. They're a little bit shorter than a lot of the other wrenches. I think they're some of the shortest ones I have, which I don't love. That's it compared to the Matco. And these USAG ones are probably the longest ones I have. And, you know, I don't know, it's probably a full inch longer than the Wright grip. You know, but some are similar. Like this is the Gearwrench. These are the shortest ones. So at any rate, cheap Gearwrench, USA made Wright grip. you know, it's a pretty good deal at 150 bucks, especially considering how well it did in testing. You know, old Matco wrenches can't really get any more. Icon wrenches, they're like 120 bucks list price. I'd say at list price, it's a miss. You know, when they're having their 40% off sales, it's a hit, and that's when I grab these. Really nice. Snap-on, you know, unless you love spending money and going into debt. I mean, I like Snap-on. I have a lot of ratchets, I have a lot of stuff, and their wrenches are considered really, really, really good. But the prices are bordering on, I don't know, outrageous, I would say. So give them a miss. These USAGs, I would say the USAGs or the Wright grips or the Icons on sale are the three that I would suggest that you maybe look at if you need a new set of combination wrenches. These are easy to get. They're easy to warranty. Wright is got a lifetime warranty, but I'm sure, you know, you're mailing things out and back in order to get them warranted. But USA made, and, you know, supporting a good company. And USAG is probably the hardest to warranty. They do have a lifetime warranty, but, you know, I don't know where you have to ship them to get them warranted. And they're a hassle to buy. You have to buy them from an overseas company, Mr. Workers, where I bought these from and had them shipped in. I don't know of any US sellers that are selling this. There may be some, but maybe they're just way more expensive. So at any rate, that's Tools and Twisties with a little bit of a deep dive down a combination wrench rabbit hole, looking at some Taiwanese, some American made, and some one set of Chinese made combination wrenches, and showing you some differences between them. And that is Tools and Twisties, and we are out.